Hi, my name's Raphael Heath, the Head of Geography at the Royal High School Bath, and I'm going to talk through today the idea of creating shapefiles. These can be used for all kinds of things, but the example I'll show you is the idea of something like a land use survey, which many geography departments do as part of their fieldwork, perhaps as part of their CBD study perhaps. Okay, so this is the kind of effect we want at the end, the idea of being able to draw buildings, but most importantly be actually able to add data to those buildings. So buildings are different colour coding according to the use they are. So this one's a department store and this one's a clothing store, for example. I'll just click on one, catering here, and if I edit it you can see I can type into these different buildings data from fieldwork like number of floors or some rank of their value, etc, etc. So that's the basic idea of what we're trying to achieve. So I'll show you how we kind of go about trying to do that. It's not entirely obvious within ArcGIS Online how to achieve this. It's much easier to get point data in from something like a spreadsheet, but how do you actually create a shape like a building like this? And there are also a number of considerations with doing work like this I'll talk through as we go through this. Okay, so in order to do this we need to go to arcgis.com, and this is how it comes up as a normal sort of sign-in page, but I'm going to click on this tab here, arcgis.com button, because it's the sign-in page I actually want, and you can see here that I get a little drop-down menu. So I'm not going to go to the maps or signing in at the moment. I'm going to go into the options here called ArcGIS for Developers. So clicking on that gets me into a sort of site that Esri produced to provide all kinds of functionality for people who are actually much cleverer than me at GIS and can do all sorts of interesting things. Anyway, we're going to need to sign in and onto this page. Now your sign in here is exactly the same as your normal ArcGIS Online subscription sign in, so I should have said at the beginning what I'm showing you here today is not something that's accessible unless you're a subscriber to ArcGIS Online. Okay, so here we go. You need to click on this area at the top here. You can see there's various options here near my login and so on, and I'm going to click on this button here that says hosted data. This gives me a list of all the various data that I have that's called hosted data, the feature services that are here, and I'm going to click on this blue tab that says new feature service. So I create on a new one and I'm going to give it a title. So I might say Cambridge land use test. And then in the description I might say, you know, this is a shape file with the land use data in for blah blah blah, etc. And under geometry, this is where I can either have them as points. If I'm going to do it as points, I may as well probably do it in spreadsheet and Excel, but anyway, could do if I want to lines and polygons. It's polygons I want for this, as this is one of the unique ways I can do this. I'm going to type in various tags here that help me find this later. So if I'm searching for my feature service, I can put these words in. It will help me pinpoint that from all the other things that people have created around the world. I click continue now, and this is where it asks for what's called my field alias. It calls each bit of data that you want to input a field. So my field alias, it says human readable label, which is quite nice underneath. I might have building use. Okay, and then under field name, I think I need to have them as single words, and that's why the alias can be different to the field name. I might have something shortened here like build use or something, or whatever. But I do need this underscoring if I'm going to join these together, otherwise it won't let me. And then you've got the data type, string, integer, float or date, to check what float is, but the string is for words, integers, numbers and dates, self-explanatory. So building use, I want people to write in their words like that it's retail or it's cinema or whatever, so that's fine. And I keep going and adding fields, so I might have something else like number of floors, and here I might have floor for example. Now this time, of course, I'm going to call it an integer because this is going to be numbers, and I might want to show the data color-coded by the results of that data, so all 2 floor buildings, 1 color, and so on. And so I go on. So I might have rank of values, and so I might have something like high or low order, rank of values stroke order, maybe. So high, low order shops, services perhaps, and again that's going to be, well, again it depends what I'm going to ask people to write. If I want them to write high and low order, it would be string, but integer might be if I'm going to rank them in some way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So I'll keep it as an integer here, and so on. The field alias doesn't like that slash. Well, I thought I would test that. Okay, there we go. Field values order. So you need to think a little bit how you're going to name these. Now, the only thing I'll just sort of point out here really is the idea of what fields you're going to put in, because once you've created this feature service and start drawing the shapes and so on, you can't actually add any more columns, fields, or data rows to it, as it were. Data columns, I should say. And so, for example, if you start drawing the buildings and you get the data, and then students say, oh yes, and I've collected something different, and I want to put that into the data, where you're kind of stuck with what you've got. So you need to think of that quite carefully in advance, otherwise you have to start again from scratch within ArcGIS Online. There are ways within desktop, I believe, that we can get around that, but not really within online. One thing you can do if you're really not quite sure what, if let's say you're getting students to go out and you don't know what data they're going to collect because you expect them to be quite independent, but you need to create the kind of the shape of the buildings for them to input data to, you could just put something like, you know, data option 1 or something, and then and you might just create, you know, one that's a string, and so they might be writing something in about data option 1, and then you can have data option 2, and then have numerical data and so on. And then of course, you know, you just got to get kids to write down what they've recorded and change the name of it once they're making sort of nice keys and legends and so on in the map. So that's another thing to consider. So I'm going to continue now. Then says, how do I want my default colouring to look? It doesn't matter too much because that'll be coloured afterwards. I might go for something distinct so it's clear later what I'm doing to everyone. Just pick this green one. Continue. Now it just shows me that when I draw this, it's going to look like a symbol like that. That looks kind of the right kind of idea of what I'm trying to do. Shows me what I'm doing, just lets me review it, and I say publish service. Excuse me. So this is where ArcGIS Online is just doing some thinking. It's now created this service for me. It's given it the name that I gave it and so on. I can always update the description details a little bit and update the service, but I can't really change anything else apart from deleting it here. So that's the job done in there as far as I'm concerned. Cambridge Land Use Test 2, okay. So that's the effect I want it to create. If I go to my content, hopefully it will have created it. So let's go back to my content and see if it's appeared. There it is. So Cambridge Land Test 2 has now appeared within my content. It's just been created by me. If I click on it, this is within ArcGIS Online. So I don't know if I sort of jumped over a step there for everyone, but basically from this site here, if I was going through it in full, I would have gone www.arcgis.com. So I'd get there, I would sign into my account, sign in, and then I would have gone to my contents page, which is where I've got to basically. And I just here clicked on this layout feature service. It's got no information, no data in it, doesn't know where in the world I want to locate any of this yet, so it just shows me a whole world map and tells me a little bit about the feature service I created. Now a couple of things useful here to change. One of the things, the sharing rights, at the moment it's private, you might want to keep it private, but an option you have is to share it, so I'm going to share this with everyone. The reason for doing that is, for example, if students I want students to access it easily, perhaps even without logging in, then and be able to sort of put data into it and change shapes. That makes it very easy to do that, and also just to view it as well. The other thing is the edit here. Edit allows me to change the name and so on still, but at the bottom here are some important controls. So it's got delete protection on if you want to make sure it doesn't get deleted by mistake. And also editing. So editing's automatically on, which is fine, but I need to double check that, because if it wasn't, then I wouldn't be able to create anything new in there. But since it's new, it knows I need to do that. You might want to untick that at some stage if you don't want to edit it any further, but it's useful normally to have that on. If you tick sync, that allows people to be able to use it on a mobile device or tablet, and use it offline as well if you're syncing your map to a tablet and you're working and putting your data directly into it and you're not in Wi-Fi connection. That's quite a useful thing. So I'm going to take them for future references. That might be quite helpful for doing my field work. So that's the basic things I set up, and I'm just going to open this now, and it should open it into a new map. So it shows me the whole world here, and I'm going to go into somewhere I want to do this. So I can zoom into any town or location where I might be doing my study and zoom in. You can see I've already got quite nice detailed base map provided within ArcGIS Online, but these are just images. I can't sort of click on a building and edit it or put any data in, so that's fine, but that's why I need to draw this map. So if I go to my content, you'll see it's got Cambridge Land Use Test here. There's nothing on my map, so I actually have to start putting some data in. Okay, so I'm going to go to edit up here, and you can see that green symbol is one I chose, if you remember. I click on it, I say new feature, and this is the time-consuming bit of actually just drawing around the buildings. And there you go, one building done. There it is. And you'll see when I click on it, I'm in edit mode, so you can see I can actually type values in to it. If I wasn't happy with the location, I could move it. If I have drawn it badly, I can delete it. I can delete it, and so on. And I could put my data in straight away if I wanted to. I'll just put a little bit in just to show you the effect. So this might be a food establishment, so I'm going to put the word food in there, and I'm just going to create a new feature. And here we go, another building, and that is going to be something like shoes, let's say, clothes, and new feature. I'll just do this for a couple just to show you. Don't worry, I'm not going to draw the whole map, but I just want to show you a couple of principles of this idea. While I was drawing, by the way, I just do a single click to draw around the building and double click to complete it. Department store, clothes, and so on. So I put a few buildings in and put a few values. I'm just going to do one or two without doing the values, just to show you the different effects and why it's important to consider that. So I'm not going to put anything in that one, and one last one over here. Okay, close. Right. So there you go. I put that in, and of course this has got just one data, and it might have more. I might have, okay, this is a 3-story building, and it's got a rank value of 5, whatever that means, and so on. And remember, I said, data option 1 that allowed some flexibility if students want to put in their own data that you haven't pre-planned or something. Okay, so that's the basic idea of drawing them and putting in the data, and I'll show you just why I've sort of drawn the data in the way I have. Okay, so at the moment these are all just green symbols, so obviously the process is just drawing them all out. If I go to change symbols now, at the moment it's just that single symbol. I'm going to use unique symbols, and the field I'm going to pick it on is building use, the names I've given them. So you can see department, food, shoes, and all my others. So it gives me a little warning message about types of features I can create. I'm happy with that anyway. And you can see here different colours have come out. Probably not the best choice of colours actually. Apply. So you can see here the greys are the ones that haven't got any extra detail, but this is my food, this is my shoes, and the other one's my department store. And if I don't happy with the colours, I just double click on it and say no, I want something a bit different here. So why is that not changed? Oh, I had to press apply, sorry. Apply. Done. Apply, and so on. So you can see I might say, well, okay, and pick slightly different, better colours to achieve this. But you can see 3 of them are different colours, 2 of them the same because they are the other category at the moment. So done changing symbol. Okay. You'll notice now if I click edit here and I go under this, I can type in the number of floors and so on, but under building use it's actually got the ones I've already typed in as a list. And that's quite useful because if you kind of have a list of 10 types that you're actually doing, it's easy to mistype them, and therefore when you do your symbols they'll come out as different colours even though it's department, but one was typed right and one was typed wrong. So here, by pre-typing them, let's say this is a field establishment, I can just click that and it immediately changes blue, or if I click department it changes red, and so on. And that becomes a really easy way. If I've got all these other buildings drawn, I just have to click on them and then click the type. That's quick and easy. So one thing you might want to do is just do the first one type of each building, as it were, and then it makes it much quicker to do the rest. Even if the one type of these buildings are just done, you could do them miles away, so they're not in this area, they don't interfere with your study or data perhaps, but when the students kind of come into using it, they'll be looking at this area and they'll have it kind of preset for them just to do that too. So that's one thing to consider to make your life easy. You'll notice now I've only drawn a few of the buildings, so if let's say I want to draw more, I go back to the edit, but you'll see now it's got them actually as set as colours. So if I was drawing a department, I could do it obviously picking the department store. Let's do this one quickly, sloppily to show you the idea, and it comes straight out like that, and I can put the other data in. But you might say, well, I don't know what that is, in which case, well, either you just draw the whole layer as department stores, and then change them later, so the students go in and they re-edit that, they're all red, and they just come back and change it to something. Or you go back to changing symbols, and you just turn them all back to grey again. So I'll just do that quickly, change symbol, go to a single symbol, apply, yep. So now they're back to all grey, and you might feel that that's an easier way to draw your symbols in, because then you don't have to worry about thinking what they are at all. They just become grey and blank there. And then if you change it to by colours, you can see that's when you get the option to pick from the drop-down list. So a couple of things that are worth considering there when you're sort of processing the data and so on. Now, clearly this is going to be a bit of a time-consuming task to actually draw the buildings, but I'm not quite sure there's a way around it. If you've got ArcGIS online, ArcGIS desktop, then there are things you can do, but if you're using ArcGIS online, then this is probably the only way you can do it I can think of. So that's one thing to consider. You could of course get students perhaps to draw it. You might say give students different sections, so one student does this bit, another student does that bit, and many hands make light work, and I suppose before you know it you've got a class 26 students drawn this in 10 minutes. You could perhaps do the whole CBD perhaps. So that's another option, and then it will all be created. A couple of other considerations with maps like this. Firstly, this is one single layer, right? So if you've got a class going out and they're collecting CBD data, then you've only got this one single layer for them to actually input it to. So that's fine if, let's say, a few students input this bit and a few students input that bit, and it'll all update live in front of all of them, and they refresh their layer, it'll all come correct, as it were. But if, for example, you've got different groups of students going out and collecting data, and you want them all to sit at the computers and all to input the data, let's say for the whole site, then, and perhaps they've collected different data, particularly with this data option. Let's say someone's collected something about, I don't know, studentification values, and someone else has collected graffiti values, or whatever it might be. Then if they're all putting their data into option 1, then whoever's last put the data will overwrite the person that put it in before, and no one will have their own map, so it's going to create quite a bit of a mess. So you can really only use this as one single layer for one purpose, as it were. So it's great if lots of people are putting data in for different areas and it's creating a huge map that everyone's sharing, but it's less good if lots of people, you want people to use the map and put in different data. So that's just a consideration. If you are doing it with different data, well, technically what you have to do is go back to your layer where the login ArcGIS for developers, where you created the layer, start over again, create the layer again, give it a new name like test 3 or whatever, and and not doing what I just did there actually, because that will just update the service, but I mean literally go back to your beginning. I'll just show you what I mean by that, and create a new feature service and go through the whole process again. And you could create one for every group, as it were, but then you've got the problem of who's going to draw all these buildings, because you really only want to draw them once, and then have lots of groups perhaps be able to do different things with them. So that's a little consideration to think about. I'm not sure on the solution to it yet. I will let you know if I find one, but at the moment, as I say, you just have to create different layers there, and every student will have to perhaps draw their own building layer from scratch, which is a bit cumbersome. So for that, it doesn't work great, but then again, if they're doing a CBD study and the buildings are all the same, and as I said to you, another way to get around it is if you put lots of little extra fields in, like data option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. going on, then you can say to one student, well, you're inputting your data into data option 1, and another student, another group input that to data 2, and so on, and then of course they'll just leave all the others blank, and when they're analysing and showing the data, then they just add the values to there. So let's say one group's doing number of floors and someone else doing rank values order, and so on. And that's another way around it actually. So you have one layer but lots and lots of fields, which everyone's sharing, and everyone just looks at the data they're interested in for their field. So yeah, that's excuse me, probably the best workaround at the moment. So that's the idea of how you do that. I'll just change this back to colours just to finish on a nicer look. Building use, apply. Okay, there we go, back to the different colours, and these ones I haven't got any land use in for. And of course I could do the colouring. If I'd put number of floors in, I could colour it according to something else like the number of floors, but I haven't put that data in yet. So there you go, that's the idea. That's how you go about it. You obviously, once you've put your data in, you just save your map. Just do this for speed, just like that, and you've got your map saved, and you can share your map as well once you've saved it. And of course, if you want everyone to access it, you've got to remember this as well. Remember I said you've got to share the feature service with everyone, otherwise they won't be able to all freely access it unless they've signed in and so on with your login. So if you want anyone else to access it, your organisation or the public, you need to be able to think about sharing that in the right way with everyone or just your organisation. And finally, the map itself has to be shared, of course, if you want people to access that. So if I share it with everyone, it means they don't have to sign in to get to it. Or I could just say, no, I just want to share it with my organisation or whatever. Okay, so that's the basic principles of that, and how you make land use maps in ArcGIS Online and Shapefiles. And of course I've just shown you for land use, but you can imagine it could be used for lots of different types of shapefile applications. Hope you find that useful, and my name's Raphael Heath from the